In this episode, we are going to learn about how to use the versioning of objects in Hibernate. So by using the versioning of object, you can easily find out how many times an object get updated in the database. So here we already have a database with a table in it. Our table name is user info. We have 4 columns: ID, name, email and address. Also we have some values in this table. Okay. So for using the versioning of object, first you have to save an object into the database using Hibernate, and you have to make some updation on that object. So by using the versioning of object, you can count the number of updation you made on that particular object. Okay. So for working with the versioning of object, you have to add some additional components to the Pojo class. So go to the Pojo class. Here I am going to add another field, another private field, private int versioning. For representing the version, I just create a variable called ver. Okay, now we have to set the getter and setter method for this variable. So select the source and use the generate getters and setters and select the variable. Okay, now click OK. Now we set the setter and getter for the variable ver. Okay, now we have to make some changes on the mapping file. So open your mapping file, and soon after the id element you have to add another tag called version, and you have to provide a name for it. You have to provide the same variable name. Here our version variable name is ver, so I use the same name. Okay, now you have to provide the column name for representing the version. So column equal to version. I name it as version. So when we create an object, Hibernate will automatically create a column in the table called version. Okay, that version represent the number of updation done on that particular object. If the object is created for the first time, the version value corresponding to that object is 0. If you make an updation on that particular object, then Hibernate will automatically increment the version by 1. If you again made another updation, then again Hibernate increment the value by 1. Okay, so now we add a new tag into the XML file called version. We provide a name for it. This is the Pojo class field and this is the column field. Okay, now go to the main class. Okay, here I am going to add a new object into the database, into the table. So I change the user ID into 140. Okay, and change the username into, I change it into George. Okay, and change the email into george123@gmail. Also make some changes in address. And save that object into the table using save using the session object, and finally commit using transaction. Okay, now we can run the application. So now before going to run it, look at the table. Here we have ID 121, 23, 25 and 130, and there are some field. Okay, here the last field is address. There is no version field is available in the table. So now I'm going to run the application. So I run the class. So before going to, I clear the console. Okay, so now I run it. Yeah, it shows the insertion is success. So we have to check it on the table. So I refresh the table. Now look at that. Here Hibernate will automatically create a new column called version, and it inserts 0 for all the rows in the table. That means it assumes that all the objects are newly created, so it put 0 for all the objects. So if you made any update on any of these objects, Hibernate will automatically increment this value by 1. If you create the object for first time, Hibernate will create this field and put 0 as a default value. And if you made an updation on any of these objects, Hibernate will increment the version by 1. Okay, so now we have to make an updation on any of these objects. So now I am going to update the column with ID 140. Here I am going to update this column with the value 140. So for that we need another method. So here I am going to create another method, public void update. Okay, we need all these things: configuration, session factory, and transaction. Okay, so before going to update, we need to load the particular object from the database. So for that I need an object of object class and use the session factory session dot use the method load and specify the Pojo class name. Here our Pojo class name is user Pojo, so use that name, user Pojo dot class. Okay, now you have to specify the column name. Here the column name is ID, it is integer type, so new integer, and the value here we are going to update this column with the ID 140, so the integer value is 140. Okay, now for making the updation you have to assign this object into the Pojo class reference. So create a reference of that our Pojo class. So user Pojo equal to, and hand over this object to this reference. Okay, here you need to cast it into user Pojo. Okay, now we can make an updation on this object. So here I am going to update the name. Here our name is George, and I am going to change the name. Pojo dot set username, that is we have to change it into George Travis. Yeah, just change the name. Okay, now we have to commit the transaction. For completing the updation we have to commit the transaction. So tr.commit also show a message object updation is success. Okay, and finally close the session object. Okay, also close the session factory. Okay, now you have to call this method. So for that we have to comment all these code segments. Okay, I comment all that code segments. Now you have to call this method called update. So new main class dot update. Okay, now we can check it out. So I'm going to run the main class. Before going to run, I clear the console, select the main class and run it again. Yeah, it shows that object updation is success, so we have to check it on the database. Okay, so I refresh the table. Now look at the last row. Here we change the name, it is changed into George Travis, and look at the last column version. You can see now the version is 1. That means this object is updated one time. Okay, now we can make another updation on the same row. So here instead of username, we have to change the user email. Okay, I am going to change the user email into something. Yeah, made a meaningful one. George at 123.com. Yeah, George at 123. That's enough. Okay, now we can check it again. So now here I'm going to make another updation. So run the class again. Again the updation is success. Now open the table. I refresh the table again. Now email is changed, updated. Now look at the version number. It is changed into 2. That means this object updated 2 times. So I hope you enjoyed this video. This is how we get the updation count of an object in database using Hibernate. Thank you for watching. See you in the next episode.